In a previous video, I talked all about how I'm going to redesign my crochet elephant Lovey. That previous video right there. So I got started on crocheting that. I started with the eyes. After reviewing the notes that I had, things weren't going according to plan. So I decided to just go ahead and redesign the whole thing. The pattern for the eyes, that is. And then as I started to write everything out and make these things up, I thought this might make a good tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to share that new pattern for the crochet eyes, and maybe you might want to use them for one of your amigurumi projects. Okay, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need 3 different color yarns, and I recommend using yarn that come from the same brand because you want the thickness to be the same, otherwise you may not get the same result that I did. You can learn more about why all weight 4 yarns aren't created equal in that video right there. You're also going to use a 3.5 crochet millimeter hook. You're also going to need some stitch markers, or maybe just one. Having a darning needle might also be very helpful. This is actually the first set of darning needles that I purchased, and they're the same ones that I have today. All right, here's a list of all the stitches and techniques that I'll be using today. And now that that's out of the way, let's get crocheting. Oh wait, there's one more thing I want to mention before we get into that demonstration. Okay, I almost forgot to mention how this is going to be constructed. So you're going to start with the black yarn and crochet the very center. And as you work in continuous rounds, you'll switch colors of the yarn, crochet that inner color for the eye, and then switch over to the white yarn. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get crocheting.
Starting with the black yarn, make a magic ring and put 6 single crochets in it. Round 1 is done. Here's where you're going to need that stitch marker. I'm going to mark the last single crochet that I made into that magic ring. From here on out, I'll be crocheting into the back loops only. So for round 2, make a slip stitch into every single stitch all the way around. You might find your hook wants to split that back loop, so be careful here and make sure your hook isn't splitting that back loop. So before you finish off that last slip stitch in this round, you'll need to switch over to the next yarn color. The yarn you switch over to is going to be the color of the actual eye that you're using for this design. Don't forget to mark that last slip stitch before you start round 3. You should also cut off that black yarn because we're done with it, but make sure you leave about a 12-inch tail because you're going to use this to outline the entire eye after you sew it onto the face later on. I'll make another video on that. Alright, remember we're working into the back loops only. So for this next round, make a slip stitch into the next stitch. Then you're going to make 3 single crochets into the stitch after that. Now you'll increase twice, so you're going to put 2 single crochets into the next stitch as well as the stitch after that. You should have 2 stitches remaining in this round. Put 3 single crochets into the next stitch and then end this round by making a slip stitch into that last one. Round 4 is just like round 2. You want to make a slip stitch in every stitch working into the back loops only, all the way around. When you're done with that, you can fasten off this yarn, but don't worry about leaving a long tail because all we need to do is pull that yarn through the stitch and close everything off. So here's how you're going to close that off. You're going to pull this yarn tail through the next stitch and it should exit the back of your work. Oh, and don't forget to put that stitch marker back in place. Okay, here's the last round. Are you ready? Join the white yarn to the same stitch where you just pulled the previous yarn tail through. Now slip stitch into the next stitch. Remember, you're going to work into the back loops only on this round. You want to make another slip stitch into the following stitch. Then put 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And then just 1 single crochet into the stitch after that. We're going to start working in some half double crochets next. So put 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, and you're going to repeat that 2 more times. So you'll make those half double crochets as an increase into the next 3 stitches. Done with the half double crochets, I'm going to go back into making single crochets. So put 1 into the next stitch, and when you're done with that, you'll want to make 2 of them into the stitch after that. You'll end this round by making a slip stitch into the last 2 stitches. Once you're done, you can fasten off this white yarn and make sure you leave about a 12-inch tail so that we can use that to sew the eye into the face later on. Now we need to close off this white yarn tail by making sure that it goes into the next stitch to complete the round. We just kind of want to close everything off the same way we did with the previous yarn color. With that darning needle still threaded onto the yarn tail, insert it into the center of the eye, or the center of that magic ring. You're going to come in through the back and make sure the needle exits the front of your work. Then take the yarn tail between rounds 2 and 3 where that yarn color changed. I'm making this highlight just off-center to my left because this is going to be the second eye. The highlight on the first eye was just off-center to my right. You want to repeat that pass to make the highlight just a little bit larger. Make sure the second yarn pass lays right next to the first one that you made. Then go ahead and knot this yarn tail on the back of the eye, and it's just going to hold that highlight in place. I went ahead and made another knot using the eye color and this yarn tail. You can cut off the extra shorter yarn tails, and you should be left with 1 black yarn tail and 1 white yarn tail. Here are both of the eyes side by side.
I hope you were able to follow along with those instructions, and maybe you'll give these a try. I find yarn eyes to be better than using safety eyes because I just struggle to get the safety eyes put into the right position. You always got this weird off-centered thing that's happening because you crochet in a spiral and they're not always exactly in line, or at least for me, that's my experience anyway. So when I crochet eyes for my amigurumi dolls, I can make sure that I pin them and sew them down in the right place. That's going to be it for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more. Thanks for watching.
How about it action?
Start recording, then you make all this noise.
See one.